it makes me think of Joseph Campbell wrote this thing called The Hero's Journey, where
Bro,
it's just
I love.
where the hero starts.
Hit me with it, bro. Hit me with it.
Let's go. Where it's like in every fucking movie. Star Wars has it. Finding Nemo has it. I bet Shrek has it too to some degree.
Yeah,
I haven't seen Shrek in a while. I know there's like 300 of them, but I'm sure it's there. And like an onion, you peel it. No, I'm just kidding. Shrek joke. But so the circle starts with the hero at the top, and then essentially goes through all these different things, and then at the bottom is the death and the positive disintegration that just has to happen. And then in that, there's various different stories. In Star Wars, it's always, and you find a mentor along the way in some capacity. And like Star Wars, it was with Yoda. He left, and the old Luke died. V1, as you were saying, and then V2, he came back, rediscovered himself, and then turned into Darth Vader. Actually, so that's an interesting turn. But anyways, all this narrative, and this storytelling, I caught up with your sister, and she told me that a big thing in your life was anime. So I'm curious, like, what characters or stories really impacted your life?
Totally. Wow, it's so cool. What a nice tie-in. Naruto. Naruto was absolutely formative for me.
Yep.
And I watched it when I would have been 13, 14, 15.
Yeah.
And then I would have also watched it when I was about 22. And,
Was this the whole series, and you came back to it and saw the whole series
exactly,
again?
Exactly. And so it's almost like I saw it, but with new eyes. I saw it. I actually watched it after having read Jordan Peterson's Maps of Meaning, which was a book which explored the psychological significance of stories. And there was a part of me, I went through my massive like personal development, non-fiction obsession phase. That just was like anything fiction is just a waste of my time. But then when I read that book, I was like, oh my God, I've been these stories are so deep, and I've just been dismissing them as like child's play. But then rewatching, so Naruto, like with many great stories that have great character development, you can see yourself in a lot of the characters. But part of Naruto's story, it's really Naruto and then also Batman to a degree. But what's similar across the two of them is they have a shadow. They have a dark side. So Naruto has the 9 tails locked up within him, which, if anyone listening who doesn't know, it's like a demon, right? A demon that has wreaked havoc across the city, has killed many people, and to harness it or to capture it, they had to lock it in someone, and they locked it in Naruto. So you've got this innocent boy who has almost the equivalent of like Satan locked in him, and he's ostracized in a variety of ways. At the time of watching, I was going, parents had separated, and I was I'd kind of been in this limbo phase where I actually didn't do the first part of year 7. So it's like everyone had graduated from primary school, gone into secondary school. And I had a period of, I think it was about 3 to 6 months where I wasn't at school whilst things were going on with family. And I immersed myself in working out and anime. And Naruto, part of his story is he just works his ass off, man. He just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. And there's an element of solitude with his hard work as well, where it's like he's ostracized, and so he almost finds himself and his self-esteem in partly his work, which I, at the time, could very much resonate with. But I think there was also this deeper understanding of there is something very powerful within me, the 9 tails, which one conceptualization is like the masculine aggression and how let loose it can wreak havoc, but harnessed and channeled, if you really learn how to tap into it, Naruto has this unbelievable power within him. And part of his journey is hard work, hard work, hard work, never giving up, doing the extra hours when no one else is watching. I think that was also a key part of it. Is like, no one's watching, he's still down there at the training grounds, just like finding his limits, finding his edges. Also realizing that there's a dark half that, if harnessed, is an absolute weapon for good. And I think that's also what appealed to me about Batman, is that it was like the thing he was most afraid of, he integrated in order to become the best version of himself. But that in that year 7 period, I think I missed the first term out of 4 of year 7. And so when I started, there was that element of didn't really have friends, didn't know anyone. People had kind of established their cliques. I wasn't very socially adept at the time either. And so I immersed myself in work. But what that led to was a discovery of, whoa, I'm actually like smart. Like, if I apply myself, I can get awesome results. And I didn't have that knowing. I think my dad was always very encouraging of me in primary school, but I hadn't really experienced it or how far I could take that until year 7. And at the end of the year 7, I got ducks. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy, because I did not see myself as a smart or, super intelligent kid or anything like that. But then end of year 7, it was like, whoa, that was exactly the positive reinforcement that I needed to the kind of hard work in the shadows when no one's watching pays. That was exactly the positive reinforcement that I needed. And it was kind of like I was watching my story in Naruto, when he would train, and he'd fail like he was very clumsy and whatnot. And then he would just, in moments where it really counted, he would just pull through and he'd like unlock, some new move or a new depth to his power. And he would discover in real time, whoa, okay, like I actually do have something within myself that I can cultivate and train and harness. So extremely formative, man. And then when I rewatched it when I was like 21, 22, seeing these patterns in myself and going, oh, wow, is that where I learnt the art, or like was that the buddings of my discipline and my just my consistency? Because I have always throughout high school identified, myself as the discipline guy. Like if it needed discipline, I could do it, and I could out discipline you. Right, it was like almost the mentality. So
it's awesome. So it sounds like both those characters had dark shadows which they needed to overcome, and at that moment you're going through that similar phase. Did you have to confront a dark shadow within yourself? What was it, and how do you feel about it now?
I'm not sure if I was aware of a dark shadow at the time. If I had a shadow now, I suppose, the stories still resonate with me on a very, very deep level. Like I could watch Batman. I have 2 younger sisters. They can watch Hannah Montana like 1,000 times over and they won't get sick of it, right? I'm the same with Batman. I could literally watch Batman over and over again. Same with Naruto. Is there a shadow that I was afraid of that I had to integrate? I think in part the aggression and that element of the masculine. And so I suppose there's, and it's funny, I'm just realizing now, like I kind of characterized the 9 tails as the masculine potential. And if unharnessed can wreak havoc, but if harnessed can be an absolute weapon for good. I wasn't very connected with my masculinity growing up. My dad, love him to like above and beyond, but he's not the typical masculine kind of archetype. And I've learned many things from him in terms that kind of break the stereotype of maybe a more rigid masculinity. So like I think I'm very comfortable expressing my emotions and being in touch with my emotions. And in large part, I think that's a consequence of the way that dad is and the way that mum is too. But part of the masculine is of that shadow that maybe I was running away from, was that aggression and was that willingness to be like, no, like hard, fast line, no. And to test and not always prioritize people's comfort. So I suppose there was an integration of that shadow with common ground. And I was actually, right before common ground started, I was in a 4-year relationship with a girl that like loved to bits as well, but we weren't right for each other. And part of the breaking up was me beginning to more and more prioritize the pursuit of truth and allowing myself to say, actually, hold on a second, I'm going to be the voice of accountability that doesn't just prioritize how you feel, but actually prioritizes truth seeking. And that, I suppose that's somewhat of that like masculine shadow where at the beginning of the relationship, I was definitely like, my script, I think I got this from my mum, my script was good boyfriend equals makes her feel good. Do you know what I mean? And I don't think that is correct. I think good man equals principle based. And sometimes that requires, it might be ruffling feathers, but from a place of love, or pushing back and testing assumptions and whatnot. So yeah, I think maybe that's part of the shadow that originally I was afraid of, but I've learned over time, bro, that's like my superpower. My superpower is being able to test people's assumptions, but from a place of love. Mm-hmm. I actually I went on a date the other night, and the last question she asked me was something like, what is your dharma? Or what is your purpose or your, and it was such a wicked question, and like the date kind of culminated in this moment. And I'd asked her the same thing earlier in the night, and she had the best answer. And what came to me when I just checked in was like conversation from love. And that's, yeah, it's funny how that all wraps around. That maybe that's part of me integrating my shadow, is learning how to have that testing of like, let me show you maybe where your blind spots are, but anchored in a place of love.
And it's a departure from, if I say something that makes you uncomfortable, that equals not love, but actually totally. Is get the best responses to anything I say.
Dude, but you're just speaking to my soul, like, because I'm like unraveling in real time, and then you'll just summarize it in a sentence. It's like, dude, it speaks to me. Yeah,
that's awesome. I'm so happy to be
dude, please bring it on more.